2008 season was the greatest season of this sim by far. It took around 10 years for results to start making sense, but I guess we can cut 2K some slack there because I'm 25 years into my life and it still makes no sense, so there's that. And then there's this, Le MVP. Who would have known all it took was a position change? This was the first season the Grizz started him at point guard. The previous years they had him starting at power forward and Melo was starting at power forward before that. So slotting him over to the point guard position and actually running a big man in an era where big men actually matter, it was all they needed for success. They needed 66 wins. Rookie of the year came out to be Kevin Durant. No Greg Oden upset in this universe either. However, we can't call him a bust yet. He's certainly no king even though he's playing in Sacramento, but we're gonna give it a few years before we start clowning. And Le Defensive Player of the Year. I believe this is his third straight, and I think that makes him like the only other player aside from Dwight Howard to have three-peated with this award. And although it seems like a mistake, you really can't argue when you actually see this in Sim and you see the clutch plays he's made. And yeah, those are about the awards anybody here would care about. So 66 wins nets the Grizzlies the first seed. They got to take on Minnesota and commence their annual first round exit. KG's legacy in this sim is basically unsalvageable. Kobe willed this horrible Lakers roster to a 5th seed. He's done it multiple times, yet this is the most help they've gotten him. Mike Bibby, an overrated Big Z. However, the Mavs running Chris Paul, Brandon Roy, Chris Bosh, and who could forget Kendrick Perkins? I don't think it's hard to have predicted how that was going to turn out. Denver, established in 03, champions in 05, a major bag fumbled in 07, trying to make a comeback in 08, finally gave us a reason to jump into a Seattle game. This was our first time ever seeing Seattle's branding, seeing their court, and they're supposed to be replaced for Oklahoma this offseason. Stern 2K is not trying to watch games in Oklahoma, but then again, this Sonics team has never really earned their keep. We've never had to jump into a game. They haven't given me a good reason to keep them in Seattle. And then down here, the Jazz had the pleasure of playing Portland for one of the few times that this big three of Nash, Wallace, and Vince Carter actually made the playoffs. They got there and upset the Nuggets last year, but the Jazz, they just built an extremely solid roster, and I'm gonna venture to say that while Sim Dwight Howard is in his prime and he has a good team around him, he's never going out in the first round. If you were around for the 2010 Sim, you'd know. And in the East, yeah, I mean, poverty as usual, to be honest. Dwayne Wade and Tim Duncan going against New York in their second playoff run, so the Knicks have now made the playoffs twice, the only times they've made it since the Patrick Ewing days. Ray Allen has made them somewhat relevant. The Nets and the Sixers led by none other than Luis Scola, whose overall is vastly overrated because of those Eurostat years. And yeah, they've got one of those rosters, I swear. I will veto, if they ever end up in the finals anytime soon with this roster, it's getting vetoed. Indy and Chicago, they got to play Gilbert Arenas and the defending champion Bulls in the first round, and the Bulls this year look like they've lost that hunger. They came in at 6 while the Pacers with this amazing roster came in 3rd. Darren Williams, J.R. Smith, Antonio McDyess, who's still producing, Hito Turkoglu, aka the Turkish Jordan. Boy, this 2K Sim loved him and Peja Stojakovic. And then this Charlotte Bobcats team came in 2nd. They've done an incredible job building out this roster, and it's funny because they didn't exist before 2004, I believe, 2005. So they've been around for like 2 or 3 years, and they've already built a much better team than the Knicks. They started from scratch and built a better team than New York. So as stated at the beginning, it took 10 years for this sim to make sense. The only thing 2K ruined here was the Nets, which again, Dirk and Yao, just routinely the most disappointing duo, the most disappointing team. They're low-key stacked, but they go out in the first or second round every year. Don't think they would have beat the Raptors anyways, but they lost in 7 to this Philly team, and I mean, Philly, they have some decent players, but Dirk and Yao, come on, bro. I was proud to call Yao Ming a cash cow of this league for like 1 year, and it's been downhill ever since. The Bulls were eliminated in the first round. Gilbert Arenas, after having the best season in this entire Sims history, pulls a 2007 Miami Heat and goes out in the first round, but he'd gotten way more out of that roster than he was supposed to anyways. Gilbert Arenas and Iggy, I promise that's not a championship duo. It was fun to watch though, so the more deserving team wins there. And then Miami narrowly edges out Charlotte. It's basically just Corey Maggette, Stoudemire. I really can't name anybody else on the team. And out west, KG got a grand total of 1 game on Memphis. Same thing with the Lakers, they stole game 1 off Dallas and then reality hit. So Memphis and Dallas, essentially the 2 best teams in the conference if you're looking at the roster. I'd consider both big threes and or super teams. And at the bottom, Utah and Denver. I'd been asking my chatters to join me in prayer and the basketball gods delivered. This second round in the Western Conference, this is literally all we've ever wanted. Just the great teams. There was really no bad team that can make the finals out of these 4. All more or less stacked. And the Grizzlies and Mavs was probably the closest and most exciting 5-game series you could find, seriously. It was 5 games, but Memphis was on the verge of going down 0-2 at the beginning. And then LeBron subsequently turned on MVP mode, and Chris Bosh, just no matter where he goes. In this sim, his teammates turned to ash. He did all he could, he carried, but they have a bright future. They got a big 3 there. We'll be seeing more of them, but when Bron wins MVPs, rarely does he not follow through with it in the playoffs. And Utah was able to knock out Denver. And man, when Denver loses, I feel those losses. From the 07 finals we watched, they had the championship championship won, they were up like 6 or 7 points with probably 2 minutes to go, and the Bulls just had the most massive run, and it wasn't one of those BS ones because we watched it happen, and they sold their second championship. Would have been their second title in 3 years, and the way things are going, Vin Baker's probably going to be gone soon, and even if he's not useful at all. That team that they built in 03, it's coming undone a bit. So that gave us LeBron James and Dwight Howard in the conference finals, just like the 2010 sim. This was the entire thing every single year. Dwight, basically Thanos, basically LeBron's version of the Celtics, just couldn't get past him. And on the east side, Toronto, Dwayne Wade and Tim Duncan were able to take care of business against Philly, thank God. At that point, there was basically no bad option for the NBA Finals. All of these teams were acceptable. They became acceptable. And in another 7-game series, the Pacers just narrowly edged out Miami. Again, one of the most incredible series of the entire sim, but the Heat got to get some actual faces on this team. They're about to fumble Amari Stoudemire in a few years. So, Grizz and Jazz on one side, Toronto and Indy on the other. Darren Williams trying to claim his stake to the Eastern Conference after Penny Hardaway as the dominant point guard. Well, more like after Gilbert Arenas. Both of these series were amazing. Le MVP, he did it. The 1 year I moved them away from Vancouver, I took them away from Vancouver as punishment because they were always going out in the first or second round. They'd blown a 3-0 lead. I said, fine, it's time for the hood. Sent them to Memphis, and now they're successful. They eliminate the Jazz in a 4-2 series, but best believe that LeBron and Dwight Howard, that rivalry is just getting started. This time in the Western Conference, gotta love it. And we were so close, oh so close to Dwayne Wade and Tim Duncan versus LeBron James, and T-Mac and Melo. Don't forget they're there as well, but this was LeBron's season, absolutely. We were on the brink. And honestly, I've just got to show you this one because you would not believe that 2K created or recreated Tim Duncan's exact playoff situation from 04. You wouldn't believe it if I didn't show it to you.
Duncan, he gets doubled, Shaq all over him. He gets away, a fadeaway. He makes it with 4/10 left. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Duncan has nowhere to go. A fadeaway jump shot.
Here they go. They get it to Fisher. He scores! Derek Fisher scores at the buzzer. It'll have to be reviewed. They'll review it. They'll review it. The Lakers are going to run to the dressing room and they'll try to get on the plane before the officials can get over to the scorer's table.
Boy,
oh
it was
my
close.
God.
We got to take a look at it, but I got to tell you, live, it looked good.
They had one job, man. They would have been up 3-2. Instead, they ended up in a 7-game series. There was a check there they could not cash. And the Raptors, Dwayne Wade and Timmy, is getting crucial, man. Put a lot of stock in these guys. I sterned Tim Duncan's free agency move because it made no sense. And they haven't made a well, they made the finals. They haven't won anything yet. They haven't been back to the finals since 05. We're going on to 09 now. Timmy's getting old. I don't know, man. It's getting spooky. So, although we absolutely wanted to see Dwayne Wade and LeBron, and at some point I assume we'll get it, you couldn't be disappointed with Indy. This team is incredible. It's fun to watch. It makes sense. And they truly are the team of 7-game series. They went down. Memphis almost fumbled it. It came down to the last game, the last minutes of the last game, and Darren Williams fouled out. You actually almost hurt for the guy. All 7-game series, and the one for the championship, he fouls out. So far, he's cursed. He couldn't cash in the Rookie of the Year over Chris Paul, despite the fact that he was the one that made it to the playoffs and was already contending in his rookie year. And the numbers were pretty close, and he had one moment. But it was still cool to finally see the Grizzlies get this done. After drafting LeBron and Melo, they have failed for about 4 straight years, hadn't even gotten close to a title, and they actually had to fight through adversity. They actually almost lost multiple times. So it felt earned. They did not come in and ruin the sim like everyone thought they would. They take out the Pacers in 7, and it turns out the 2013 alternative NBA Finals actually was not that bad. So on to the 08 draft, it was time for the Boston Celtics to collect on Russell Westbrook or Derrick Rose, and Russ and KD. So we don't really have to talk about that, but the Hornets, 4D chess. They started that year with Ben Wallace on the roster, and not that they would have been great or anything, but they probably wouldn't have been the worst team in the league. They traded Ben Wallace, tanked as hard as they could with Kevin Durant on the roster, and now they've got Derrick Rose and KD. It kind of looks like Durant was just fated to start his career with a very athletic point guard, so that's going to be a thing. Westbrook picked up by Houston, 2K in their sense of humor, but they're going to be great. He's starting with Pau Gasol, and Gasol is low-key one of the best big men in the league. He's been that way away for a while, so that's pretty much what's important from that draft. Free agency really didn't change anything this year, everybody stayed, so that's good. Boston should be bad enough next year in the draft to get James Harden or Blake Griffin or Steph Curry. Find out tonight because unless an asteroid hits, I'll be streaming it. Twitch link in the comment section and description. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you want to see more of these recaps, and I'll see you all on the next video.